says heading, y'all.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I was trying to do a schedule so the chat would start early like it did. And I was trying to see if it would start on its own, and it did not. I had to hit go live. And what I don't know is whether if I had hit go live earlier, would the camera have come on or would just the chat have come on? So I still need to figure it out a little bit. First of all, let's start with, can everybody hear me okay? And see me okay? How's the picture? How's the sound?
Looks good on our end.
Hello, Danny from Happy Farms. Or Danny Happy Farms. Happy Farms, Louisiana. I should try it. I was complaining today about people not saying my name right. I should read it fully before I try and speak it. So let me make sure I have on the live chat so I see everybody and not just top chat. There we go. All right. Hi, Ashley. Hi, Leslie. Are you guys hearing me? Let's see. Looks good blurry.
It is a little blurry.
It is a little blurry. Let's see. Leslie, I'm going to make you a moderator also.
Okay.
Right there. Do you know what your job is?
Kick out the trolls.
Yes. Watch out for the trolls.
How's Sally?
Sally's good. She enjoyed her coffee today. From home, not from Starbucks. All right. So let's see.
I don't think you made me a mod yet.
Yeah, I did. You might have to close your chat and reopen it. I don't know. Live chat. All messages are visible.
Stuff popped up. I can do stuff now.
There we go. All right. Hello, Papa Truck Prep Stetter. All right. So here's our normal drill. Every time we come into live chat, please, if your first name is different than your channel name, excuse me just a second. Sorry, everyone. I'm getting over a head cold, so let me just try and take care of that so I sound like a normal person. All right. Hey, George. Thanks. You know the drill. So if your first name is different than your channel name, please let me know what it is. I really try to get to know everybody by name. Hello, Allie Oakley. And where you're watching from, what your weather's like, anything else you want to share about yourself. And we just kind of do that for a few minutes till people join and hang out. So I see we've already got 5 people in today's chat. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of introduce our topic. We won't really talk about it much right now. And then as more people come in, I'll reintroduce it. So let's see, we've got Allie Oakley, Boston, cold and snowy, and Chelsea from Canada and cold. So opposite coasts, both of y'all cold. We actually warmed up a little bit today. Yesterday we had ice and snow. Ashley's about 2.5 hours north of us. Ashley, how are you guys? Are you still under snow there? Cold and sloppy. So we warmed up to about 50 Fahrenheit. I have no idea what that is Celsius. I'm guessing probably in the teens. And so it was pretty warm. Leslie and I were outside working. We wore light jackets, but we didn't have to bundle up too much. Neither one of us was in a hat. I don't think. Were you in a hat?
Only when I was on the 4-wheeler.
She did an egg delivery for me on the 4-wheeler. And careful with the, she's plugging in her phone over here. Hello, my brother-in-law Jason's in the house. Cold and cloudy, and he's outside of Houston. Not bad, he says. It can't be too cold. Diana at Justice Acre says raining again in Ohio. You guys have had the worst rain this year. I forget who I was watching, and they were just under tons of water up that way. So let's see, we've got about 8 people here. Hi, Vicky from Little Creek Homestead is here, and she's not far from me, so I'm guessing she's about the same as me. A little bit warmer today and mud. Ed N in Arizona got to 31 degrees last night, so y'all warm it up a little bit. Or did it get down to 31? Is it up to 31? Down. You said overnight, so probably got down to 31. So last week on Wednesday, it was the day before Valentine's Day, and I kind of had this idea of talking about intentional acts of love. And then we had our car in the shop, and we had to shuffle cars around, and I ended up not having a live chat. But I really thought the idea was intriguing to me, and that it would be fun and maybe inspirational to everybody. So I carried it over to tonight. So Ed, we can all be jealous of Ed. He is in 60 degrees in Arizona. That would be nice. That would be nice. So I was kind of thinking about a couple years ago. It's been more like probably about 30 years ago now, because it was when I was still living in Louisiana and I moved from there in 95. So
You were not 10 years old in Louisiana.
10 years ago.
You said
So it's
30.
been about 30 years ago. Thank you, Leslie. I would have been 18 30 years ago, not
You're
10.
not 48, are you?
Yeah, I just turned 48. My own
What?
daughter. She said, what? 1970 is my birth year. Yeah, I'm a 1970s baby. But anyway, I remember about 30 years ago when random acts of kindness first kind of began to spread. Hello, Practical Modern Homestead. What's your first name? Where are you watching from? And what's your weather like? I know you've been here before, and I'm sorry I've forgotten your first name. I'm really working on it. It takes me a while, but I do eventually learn people's names. So I was thinking about the random acts of kindness, and there's what's the Noah's Ark movie? Evan
Almighty.
Evan Almighty. When they're like, what's an ark? It's an act of random kindness.
One random act of kindness.
ARK, act of random kindness, they say in the movie.
Angela and Charlie are the name of that channel.
Oh, great.
I went to their page.
And you hear the stories about like the person who will start a line of paying for the Starbucks or the drive-thru of the person behind them that goes on for like 100 cars or whatever, and different things like that. And at that time, the church we were involved in, we started doing backpacks for the school kids in the fall. We would go on hot summer days, and in Louisiana it gets nice and hot, and we would stand outside stores with bottles of water and hand them out and just try to be a part of the community and things. And I think that those are good. I think when you feel a nudge to do something kind for somebody, you should always do it. You should always follow that, whether you think it's an instinct, whether you believe as I do that that's God telling you to reach out to somebody in kindness. I want to make sure that I don't ever come across in tonight's talk as saying that we should not be kind and we should not be randomly kind. But it sounds like I'm going to negate what I just said, doesn't it? I don't know another way to say it. In addition to random acts of kindness, I want to say that sometimes I personally find it more difficult to be kind to people who are in my own home, or those that I work with, or those that I see on a daily basis. It's easier for me to give of myself to a stranger, to pay for somebody behind me, to give my clothes away at Goodwill, than to be loving to those in my home. And I was thinking about maybe instead of, or in addition to acts of random kindness or random acts of kindness, we should have intentional acts of love, and that we should work on being intentional in our words and deeds with those around us. And I thought it would be fun. I don't know where my live chat went to. Maybe you guys are just listening and not talking right now. Okay, there's Jenny. Happy Farms, Louisiana. She says, I love it. I thought it would be fun and maybe inspirational for us to kind of share these times when someone has done something intentionally as an act of love towards us and it really made an impact to us, or when we have had the opportunity to do something loving towards others. And I know that it's difficult to talk about oneself, especially in our culture. It's very frowned upon and seen as self-gratuitous, as garnishing attention. I saw somebody posted on Facebook, they shared a meme that said, the minute you go out and post your act of service on Facebook, or on social media, it's become all about you. And I don't think that that's necessarily true. I think that sometimes people who hear these stories will get inspired, and it will help them think of ideas that they can do with others. And so I'm going to step back for a second and read a couple comments. And then we'll get back into this talk. Let's see where we're at. So it's easier to be nice when people are nice to me. I think that is definitely true. And unfortunately, that's not when necessarily we need to be nice, is it? Sometimes when we need to be nice is in the face of people who are being unkind. In the Bible, there's lots of stuff about this. There's a soft answer turns away wrath, right? There's turn the other cheek. There's give them with blessings. You're going to pour heaping coals of fire upon their head. There's all sorts of these kinds of principles out there. Kill them with kindness, Farm Alarm says. Daddy says, I need to practice this with my children. They get my wrath. Yes. I remember sometimes when my children were smaller and I would be so upset at them, and I would be like a second person outside myself, watching myself, seeing my head spin around and the steam coming out and my children cowering, and just think, who is this monster? Like, how can these little tiny children cause you to behave in such a way? And I shouldn't say cause, but how can I allow myself to react in such a way? I need to take onus for that. I need to take ownership. Nobody else can make me behave in any way. That's a choice that I made. All right, so let's see what we've got here. Ed N. Excellent idea. We often take for granted those closest to us. Linda Kell, watching from Seattle on a cold and sunny day. You guys had a bunch of snow. Is your snow starting to go away yet? My brother lives in Redmond, and he sent pictures of like this much snow in his yard, and he and his daughter had built a little igloo. Vicky says she always kills with kindness, especially when they're not nice. Yeah, sometimes it does help. All right, so I'll kick it off, and I'll start with an incident that happened just last week. Hello, Jay's in the house. Hello. Yes, you heard somebody from Seattle. Thanks for watching, Jay. So last week, I was outside in rain. Excuse me, sorry. I apologize. Les, can you get me a little cup of water, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Doing farm tours, and it was cold, and I was the only one home. It was in the afternoon. The sun was starting to set. And I was slopping around in mud this deep. We've had the worst mud and stuff. Thank you, sweetie. And we haven't been feeling good. We've all been sick. And I was pretty close to done with chores, but I was in the hay barn, and I was bringing hay out to the pigs for their house, because while I was doing chores, I saw that their nest had gotten filled with water, but it was so cold and their house was like stuck down in the mud that I couldn't move it. So then I'm thinking the temperatures are going to drop, it's going to be freezing, and I'm just thinking about coming out in the morning and find like pig popsicles in their house. And the mud in their house was like the thickness of, it was thinner than pudding, but it was a little bit runnier than yogurt, but it was like that. It was like mud, and it was liquidy mud, but not water, but just mud. And I was like, oh man, I gotta take care of this. So I'm pushing a wheelbarrow back and forth full of hay, and so I brought it from the barn, and we have a hotline, and then we have hog panels where the pigs are, and there's about this much space between it. And I was forking the hay over the hotline, and then I would get between the hotline and the pig thing and get it in their house. Well, one time when I went to fork it over the hotline, I dumped the whole wheelbarrow over on the hotline, which was okay. I took the wheelbarrow back up, it was fine. So I went around, and I'm standing with this much space on each side, hog panels on one side of me and hotline on the other, but the hotline was down on the ground under the hay. And so I got the pitchfork, and I got the hay, and I got it in there, and it was good. And the next one I went to do, and the tine of the pitchfork caught the hot wire and brought it up against my hip, and my other hip was touching the hog panel, and it had we had duct tape on the handle of the pitchfork, and my gloves were wet, and I felt electricity like zing, 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 like through several parts of my body and out my feet, and it hurt. Especially on my hip where the two hog wire panels like that hit my hip. And so I'm miserable, I'm wet, I'm upset. And about this time, I see Chris drive home, and I'm like, yes, he can help me with this. He can help me figure out what we need to do. Because at first, I tried to move the hog house. Like, I got in their pen, and I was like trying to lift it, but it was bogged down in mud, and I couldn't do it. And so I thought, well, if I just fill it up with enough straw and hay in the bottom, then they'll get on it and compact it, and that water will go out or get pushed down, or, I don't know, maybe it'll make bricks like hay and mud, But at least they wouldn't be as dry. Give them some kind of insulation. So he came home, and I went in the barn to get another load, and he came outside, and he's like, hey, where are you at? And I said, I'm in the barn getting hay. Can you turn the water off? And he said, yeah. And I got a load of hay and came out, and he was gone. He had gone back in the house. And so then he turned off the water and went in the house. And I'm calling. It's like 150 feet away. I'm like, Chris, as loud as I can. And he didn't come back out. And I'm just like, I'm nearly in tears, and I'm so tired, and I'm in the mud, and I get it all done, and I get inside, and I walk in the house, and he's like, hey, how you doing? And everything in me just wanted to be like, shut up. But I just was like, I need a minute. Just give me a minute. And I went and I lay down on the couch, and tears just started coming down my face. And he's like, what's the matter? I'm like, I was out there and I was trying to move the big thing, and I got shocked by the electric fence, and then I brought hay, and then you were home, but you didn't come help me. And I'm just like tears rolling down my face. And I'm like, he said, I'm so sorry. I thought you were done with chores because you said, can you shut off water? Like, that's the last thing we always do is turn the water off for filling up the troughs and walking out the hose. Yeah, so I had to walk out the hose. So he turned off the water and disconnected it, but then I had to make sure all the water runs out down the hill so it wouldn't freeze overnight, And I'm like, I know you didn't mean to, and I was calling you and you couldn't hear me. And I was just such a mess, and I was exhausted, and I was hungry. And so he looked at me, and he put his hand, I was laying on the sofa, just I had kicked off my boots, but that was about it. I just flopped on the sofa. I'm like, that kind of thing where you're almost not coherent because you're so miserable. And he put his hand on the top of my head, and he's like, I'm really sorry. He said, what can I do right now that can help you? I was like, can you make me something to eat? I'm so hungry, and I was going to make dinner. And I just kept coming out. But just the fact that he calmly said, what can I do to help you? And he went and he cooked the entire meal and stuff. And he does a lot of cooking at home. So it's not like it was something extraordinary or, even out of the ordinary. But just that he was like, what can I do right now that'll help you? And for me, that's have you guys studied love languages at all? I'm an acts of service girl. So if somebody says, what can I do to help you? I'm like, a little heart goes pitter patter, pitter patter. So I'm going to stop talking for a minute, and I'm going to go back because there have been lots and lots of comments, and say hello to people, and then we'll catch up and we'll hear some of your stories of acts of love. All right. Lots of comments here. All right. That's where I dropped off.
Do you have an extra rubber band?
All right. I don't, Leslie. Sorry. Your sister will probably when she gets here. Linda Call had 18 inches of snow in Seattle. Wow, that's so much. That's unusual for that area. All right, Chelsea had to go, but she'll come back later. Yeah, it was a pretty big zap. It's not fun. Let's see. Sounds so shocking. You guys are funny. All right. So I think pretty much we don't have any questions yet. It doesn't look like. Yes. So Ed said something kind at just the right time. Exactly. All right. So Boston Mountain Homestead is in the house. Hello. So is Boston Mountain in Massachusetts? Is it that Boston, or is it somewhere else? Where are you guys located?
In Arkansas, Mom.
It's in Arkansas.
Yeah,
did we have this conversation last
time?
Yeah, Leslie has a much better memory than I do. Thank you so much. All right, thank you for joining. So for those of you who have come in the middle of that tragic story I was telling, what we're talking about tonight is random acts of kindness versus intentional acts of love, and what have you experienced where someone has done something loving for you an act of love that left an impact on you, or what is something that you have done that's kind and loving for someone else? And today we are sharing those good deeds. It's not always a great idea to share those. We don't ever want to be self-advocating or self-promoting or whatever, but we're choosing to do that today so that we can share these stories with each other and hopefully inspire others. And we also talked about the fact that sometimes it's easier to be kind to those who we don't know as well, and that those that we love, that we work with on a day-to-day basis, and those in our home tend to see our ugliest selves, and that we need to be intentional about being loving and kind. Wow. Danny says, one time a random person jumped out of a truck, gave me $100 at a bus stop. It was a time I really needed it, riding the bus with my 2-year-old. Anyway, he said the man upstairs told me to give it. That is amazing, and that is such a blessing. Thank you for sharing that story, Danny. Sunshine Farm says, when I'm at work, it totally makes my day when a colleague pops in just to say hi. Such a small act, but it makes a big difference. It does. It does. It's amazing that it doesn't have to be some grandiose thing that we come up with that really does make a difference. I got on the bus and gave the girl behind me $20. Danny, that was really kind of you to share that. Jay at the Grateful Soonite said, I had a friend who had no idea was stressing badly over lack of something. Give a bunch of what I was stressed over. She made me cry. Yeah. I think it's amazing when those kind of things happen. So let me see. Leslie, can you think of any stories that you want to share?
The social experiment that Pop did one time with the church, where he dressed up.
Oh, you want me to tell that story?
Yes.
So my father-in-law is a pastor, and he pastored at this time in California, and we went to a deaf church. So everybody there was associated with deaf culture in some way, knew sign language. So at one Sunday, he dressed up as a bum, and he looked really filthy. He put on fake beard and dirty clothes, and I mean, really looked really bad. Dressed up as a bum. That's an awful way to say it. Oh, a homeless person probably would be better. Hello, Alan from Louisiana. Thanks for joining us. And just all he did, he went to the edge of the parking lot near where the driveway was and sat on the curb with a shopping cart and just sat there. As there was a church that had service in that church in the morning, and then our church had church in the afternoon. And so as they were leaving, our people were coming in. And there were people from our deaf church that were very low income, and those were the people that brought him a bottle of water, that ran down to In-N-Out and got him a whole meal and brought it back to him, that gave him cash. So it was really interesting to see that it was those who did not have much that gave the most in that day. That was a very interesting lesson for our church. All right. Little Creek Homestead, Vicky says, I've been in line behind a mom with her kids when she didn't have enough to pay all her groceries and started to ask the cashier to take stuff off so she could have enough to pay. Did you pay for her? That's a lovely thing to do. G-Dog said, somebody gifted me with an operational vehicle. Oh, man, that is a lifesaver indeed. Jay said, also had a guy at a hatchery. I didn't know at the time he was the owner. Put extra chicks in my box because we had a chat, and I said it was my 3rd time there that spring. Made me feel blessed. That is great. Excuse me. For those of you who came in a little bit later, I'm still getting over my cold. I'm stuffed up. I feel much, much, much better. Sunday was the worst of it, but I got a little bit scratchy throat. So talking for an hour is probably going to push it a little bit. I'm going to try not to cough and sneeze at you guys too much. Also, I am inspired by the sickness we've been passing around our family. I put up a video last Saturday about our favorite homestead recipes, homestead remedies. So if you guys have any favorite homestead remedies, be sure to go click on that video and leave me some other ideas. All right, let's see. I'm trying to think. I know there's other things that we've done. Um, I I had a friend who is a mom of 3 special needs kids, and I was given some money, and I was told to use the money just to give it away to somebody. And so it wasn't much. I want to say $20. And I wrote a card for her, and it was someone that I had a working relationship with, but I didn't know her very well at the time. And I wrote a little note in the card, and the card had birds on the front of it. And the next time I saw her, I just handed the card as we were leaving, and I just said, "This is for you." And later she responded, she posted it. She posted it publicly, so I feel okay sharing this. That she had a recent fall, and she needed a wheelchair, but her copay was $20, and she didn't know where she was going to get the money from because they had just moved, and there was a whole bunch of stuff. They had to have the deposit for the electric and all this, and they were down to just nothing in the bank account, and that was the exact amount that she needed for the copay for the wheelchair. And the card was just a reminder that she's going to be taken care of. And the birds on the front just reminded her of the verse about God takes care of the sparrows. So, but that's my story of something that I have done. Let's see. Hey, Kathy Leach, glad you're in the house. One Anchor Under God Homestead. Thank you so much for joining. She says, I believe I'm not sure if you're she or he. I shouldn't say that. They say, I believe people that have struggled with not having a lot in their lives are quicker to help the people in similar situations because they know how it feels. I think that might be true. I think there are very generous people who are very wealthy, but I think that there's a special heart for people who have experienced need. Noodles 1980 says, I work in New York City. I walk past homeless every day. I was thinking about giving this one guy some cash or offer to buy him breakfast. As I walked up to him, I noticed he was urinating in public. I decided no. Yeah, so here's an interesting thing. You hear a lot about whether or not you should give to panhandlers, and I lived in LA where people were, you had all sorts of problems with that. And my mother-in-law said that one time she felt like God said to her, I gave to you before you were deserving of it. And I thought, wow. So I started packing little lunches and just carrying them around with me. And then if I felt that little nudge, then I would give it. And one day there was a person on the median begging, and my car stopped right by him, and I rolled down the window and I said, I don't have any money, but I've got this lunch here. And the person said, oh yeah, that'd be great, thank you. And as I was pulling forward, I saw him pull the piece of fruit. It was fruit and granola bar and something else. Pull the piece of fruit out and throw it on the ground. And I was like, guess you're not really hungry. So it's a risk. There's always a risk that when you do something for somebody that they're going to be not needy, that they're going to be ungrateful, that they're not going to, that they're not going to do with it what you would want. There's a risk that if you give somebody money, they're going to spend it on something that's not drugs. But I would say I would rather err on the side of generosity. And I would rather err on the side of love, and I would rather err on the side of kindness. And let God, karma, fate, let God deal with them and their heart and what they do with it. And I think that you need to listen too. I don't think that we need to give to every person, and I don't think that we need to deprive ourselves of things in order to give to people. But I think that I could stand to be more generous and giving. Let's see. Hello, Howling Dog Ranch. Hi, Amanda. Milford, California. Let's see. Basharo Healthy Lifestyles. Hello and welcome. Glad you're here. Hi, Elizabeth. Glad you're joining us. Oh, thanks, Mary, for letting me know. Hello, Julia. I was standing in line at a coffee shop, and I was watching a young man digging through his belongings. I had the thought he needs food. So when I ordered my food, I doubled it and took it over to him. That's amazing. That's the kind of thing we need to be doing. I used to keep granola bars in my food when I lived in LA. People always need food. True. Thank you, Linda. We once rushed to the store to put together a little kit for a guy and his dog who we saw at a stop sign. We did it because we felt a very strong impression we were to help. He seemed appreciative. And I think most of the time people will be. I think most of the time people will be appreciative. I don't give money, but I've gone shopping and bought food such as deli sandwich, fruit, and drink. So far they've been appreciative. Yeah. Jason says, I decide that my good deeds are done in love and God sees it and will reward it no matter what the person does with my gift. And I think that's true. I think sometimes the giving, I think sometimes the nudge in our heart, for those of you who are Christian, for those of you who believe in God, I think sometimes when God nudges our heart, sometimes it's more about our act of obedience than it is about the person who is in need. I think that God will not necessarily, God can work through anyone, and that he's asking me to partner in his grand plan. And I think that that is an amazing opportunity that we have to be God's hands and feet out extended. And that if I don't obey, it doesn't necessarily mean that that person's going to go unfed or uncared for. God can find another person who does listen. So I think that that is exactly the right attitude. Right. And Noodles 1980 says, I also believe we're responsible for knowing what we are getting into. Yeah. And I think too, J-Dog says I often buy people coffee. When we lived near Boise, we kept those in the car so we could hand them out when we felt led to. Yeah, that's great. People always need toothbrushes, toothpaste, stuff like that. Boston Mountain Homestead says, I lived in Philadelphia years ago and my husband and I went out to the movies downtown. We went to a sandwich shop and 2 people were sleeping huddled on the street. It was cold. I bought them 2 hot sandwiches. Yeah, I think that things like that are kind. Blankets, jackets,
hats, socks.
Yeah, clean socks. I mean, just think about the things that we take for granted. You know, if being clean, and how quickly you feel bad about yourself when you're not clean. You know, little bars of soap, washcloths, things like that. Jason says, I shared about this exact topic in my young adults group last Sunday night. Coincidence? I think not. Let's see. Ed says, my sister was having a rough month not too long ago, and then her washing machine broke. I had money set aside for myself, but ordered her a new washer instead. It was a big surprise when it showed up, especially considering she lives on the other side of the country. Okay, I want to talk about something. My mother and father-in-law served God as pastors to the deaf for how long, Jason? All your life, right? So like 40-something years. And not too long ago, they retired to Oklahoma to build his little cabin in the woods. If you haven't seen our videos, you can look up the Papa's Log Cabin series. And it's not like he ordered a cabin kit. He is chopping down trees in his woods and dragging them with his car and planing them and, you know, doing the whole thing. He is building a cabin by hand. And God has supplied so many things for them. It's amazing. They were gifted a car, like somebody said a little while ago. People just show up at their house ready to work and help on it. People have met his sister in town and given her Home Depot gift cards for like $1,000. Somebody recently bought them a new dryer, I think, which is why your story made me think of that, Ed. So there's a passage in the Bible that talks about how when God was establishing the different land for the Hebrews when they entered the promised land, right? And they were all getting their different inheritance. But the Levites were not given a portion of land. The Levites were told, and I will be their inheritance, that I being God. And my mother-in-law, all her ministry life, they always had to work outside the church because they always pastored little small churches that didn't have a lot of money, and they didn't have retirement. And she said, I'm not worried about retirement because I believe the promise that God will be our inheritance. And it's just been amazing to see that come true. And we are going to visit them in March. Would you know which weekend, Leslie?
The 14th through the 19th.
The 14th through the 19th. So I'll be doing a video update. We haven't been there in about a year, and they have added on a wing with
section.
2 bedrooms and the bathroom. I don't even think I've got a really good video of the bathroom and laundry area. So we'll be putting that in there.
I included a link to the playlist if they want to go check it out on my comment.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Leslie. Leslie put a link to the playlist in if you want to watch it after this. And Noodles1980 says we have to be fully aware of the situation we as Christians decide to take on. We would never want to reflect Jehovah in a bad light. It becomes unproductive as Christians spreading the word. And I think that's true. And I think sometimes there are things you can do that are going to be harmful, not helpful. There are people who take advantage. There are people who, I think you do have to be wise. And I think that's why we have to listen to the Holy Spirit and really follow those prompts, and not just because we want to do things, but really, really seek so that we're doing the right thing. I think that is wise. Let's see. When my kids were young, one of my son's friend's family was evicted in the dead of winter. I took the whole family in for a month and I helped them get back on their feet. That's amazing, Vicky. That is amazing. J-Dog says, only give with a grateful heart. That's right. Yeah, if you're giving begrudgingly, I guess it's okay because the person on the other end is still going to get something. But I don't know that that's necessarily going to... I don't know that you can really consider that an act of love. Let's see. And how are we doing on time? Okay, we're about halfway into it. So, totally lost my train of thought. I don't know what I was going to say. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button. And
We've talked about great acts of kindness from us to others. Is there any other act of kindness that has been done to you or you've seen done for someone else?
Oh, there you go.
That really stuck out.
Yeah, Leslie says, so what, sorry, a text came through from my husband. I'm using his iPad. So we've kind of talked about our own personal experiences a little bit, but what have you seen? What have you been witness to that you saw a great act of love? Or here's something else, conversely. Have you ever felt that nudge and then thought, I don't know if that's me. Is that me or is that God telling me to give of myself to someone else? I'm going to clue you in right now. Most likely that's God. But if you didn't obey that nudge, then how, what was it and what do you wish you would have done differently and how did that affect you? And I see a lot of people are saying give with no expectations. Yeah, that's hard. It's hard to give with no expectations, but yes, I think that is necessary. That's a necessary part of this. All right. I'm trying to think of anything else that in our life that would be an example. Jay says, my mom founded and ran a charity for babies for basically all of my growing up years. So many stories. All of us kids were deeply involved and it has given me a heart for charity work. If everyone gave to those in need, the world would be a better place. Yeah, that's true. And okay, so here's a question I want to pose to you, and I'm just throwing this out there. When there are so many things that you could give to, right? There are so many good causes out there. There's like compassion where you can support children. There's all the different agencies that help in disasters. There are all the different homeless shelters. There are pregnancy centers. There are
Project Rescue Freedom.
Project Rescue Freedom. My brother works with an organization that helps rescue people from human trafficking. There's the Big Brother Big Sister program. So how do you choose? Where do you start? How do you not get overwhelmed? There's so much need in the world. How do you figure out what you can do or what you're supposed to do? So I'm just throwing that out there. I see Farm Alarm says they sponsor a child through compassion. So do we. We actually sponsor 2, and the first 2 that we sponsored had the same birth dates or within a day of my 2 children. And then when one girl aged out, then we started sponsoring another one. So let's see. Vicky says, if I feel I'm supposed to help, I just do it. It's not my place to decide if they deserve my help. I just give it freely. Only way to do it if you ask me. Vicky, if we could all be like you, that would be great. Ed says, my 13-year-old son gave $20 of his own money to his sister so she could have extra money in a school dance. It was just great to see kids taking care of each other without prompting. That is great, especially among siblings. It's hard to be on the receiving end sometimes. One second, I feel like I'm getting all stuffy again. I wish I had a way of muting that, so you guys didn't hear me get all sniffly. It's hard to be on the receiving end. One winter years ago, someone gave us gift cards and a coat for my daughter. We couldn't afford much. I broke down in tears and just staring at the cards. Oh, that's so kind. Julia says, I love to give when they don't expect it because they appreciate it at the moment of giving. Do the shoebox program. Oh, yeah, shoebox program is great. Most organizations pay the people that run the charities. I try to find the ones that aren't taking a huge amount from the donations. That's a good point, Jay. And I think somewhere online I saw a chart that will list like the big name ones and what the percentage, what the cut is off the top. So that information is out there. That's one way to decide. All right, let's see. Farm Alarm says, we have been given medical supplies for Henry and have been so blessed. I pay it forward when I can. I have sent medical supplies in return. All right. Yeah, so I think that's something else too I see a lot of, Ashley, is when people have experienced, excuse me, sorry guys, I hate that. I hate that I'm all sniffly and stuffed up. When people have experienced one type of need and they were given something to help meet that need, that they often have a heart for that. So like you often see people who grew up in foster care that then turn around and return by doing something for those in foster care or doing something for kids in need. So I think that's often true. Pay it forward with giving. All right. What else, guys? This has been a really fun conversation. What else have we got to talk about tonight before we head out and go our different directions? We're about 45 minutes in, so we've got about 15 minutes left. Any last thoughts on giving? Noodle says, I feel strange giving money to an organization that I have no control over. Yeah, it depends. You know, I mean, you got to just make a choice about whether you're going to trust it or not. Living with Kim says, hey, Kim. Jay says, we can't help with all the things. That is why we should pay attention to the promptings. God knows where he needs us to help. Excuse me for a minute, guys. Leslie, come sit here for a second and talk to these people while I go take care of this nose. Thank you.
Alrighty, so I saw a comment about the Linux project. I have no idea what that is, but if you would feel free to tell me more about it, I would love to know more at JDogs. 1 Acre Under God says, my boss, whom I had only known for a couple months, took me away from the Springfield area all the way to the Kansas City airport so I could see my family and would not take any gas money. That is a far drive. I would be pretty thankful for that too. It is very cozy a la Walmart. My sweater. I think I paid $12 for it a couple years ago. Alright, and she's back.
Thanks, Les. It was getting worse and worse. It was all like this congestion right up here behind my nose, so it made my voice sound all nasally and nasty. Alright, let's see where we're at. Has anybody heard of the Linux project? I have not, Jerry. What is it? My boss, whom I had only known for a couple months, took me from around the Springfield area all the way to Kansas City.
One too.
Oh, you already read that one?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. How far down are we?
We're down past the sweater comment.
Okay. My daughter and her husband took in foster kids, and I've never seen such gratitude from the kids. They became guardians to 2 brothers so they could live together. That's great. Jack said, I had a boss pay the freight to send a crate of freebies to a children's home. Oh, wow, that's wonderful. And, let's see. What else? I had a thought of something I read, but I lost my train of thought. I don't remember. If it comes back, I'll say it. Thanks, you guys, for all being so willing to share your hearts tonight. And I think this has been a really fun talk we've had. When our kids are a little older, we want to be foster parents, but not when my kids are this young. Yeah, I mean, you really have to decide. I have friends who have taken in foster kids while their kids are young, but a lot of times the kids that are coming into your home they don't get into the foster system by living in a good environment. So, they're bringing in some environmental issues. They're going to have behaviors or knowledge that you may not want your kids to have at that age. So I can understand that. When we give ourselves to others in a way that would make them want to do the same, we have planted a seed that blossoms and produces good fruit. Yes, I completely agree. Noodles 1980, did you already tell us your first name?
I haven't seen it in the chat.
Okay. I can just call you Noodles if you want, but I prefer calling people by their first name when I have the opportunity to do so. Yeah, I think that like we talked about, you don't want to go around shouting your good deeds from the rooftop. The Bible says that when you do your good deeds before men, you've already received your reward, right? So that wasn't the purpose of tonight's chat. Is it just to tell each other all the good things we've done? Oh, we're such good people and we've given. That's not how I intended this to be. And Vicky, I'm sorry if I made you a little bit embarrassed earlier when I said that. I did not mean that sarcastically, that we could all be like you. I just meant I have loved you sharing your heart, and I would like to have a bit more of that in my heart. 1 Acre Under God's in Christian County. That's right. So she's not far. Christian County is Ozark area.
She's about 45 minutes away from us.
Yeah, Jay's in Mountain Grove area.
Oh.
I won a mountain bike in a store raffle. We had major flooding in the area where we lived. Someone lost their car, so I gave them my bike. That is awesome. That's completely awesome. Yeah. And then one thing that we do that we haven't talked about a lot, I don't think, but part of our farm values, our homesteading values, is to give back to our community. And so I try to have 10% of anything I grow or raise is given away. So I have egg customers, and I have one person who I deliver free eggs to their family on quite a regular basis. All right, so Jerry's telling us a little bit more about Project Linus. Oh, Linus! Earlier I thought you said Linux. Linus, like the Charlie Brown character with the blanket. So they bring in warmth and security blankets. Oh, that's amazing! Warmth and security through blankets to children needed across the nation. That is excellent. And someone in our church, Melissa, who's Melissa making those blankets for?
For the
Nursing
senior
homes?
Yeah.
So
For both of them.
We have 2 nursing homes here in our city, and someone in our church just came across the idea or came up with the idea that she is making blankets, those fleece blankets that you tie together.
Like the one on the seat next to you.
Oh, yes, like this one. This is probably an example of one. Like this. And she's making one for every resident in the nursing homes, the 2 of them in our town. And she's asking people to donate for the material or to get the material and make them with her, either way. So that's something. So there's always something you can do. Let's see. Thank you, Noodles. I appreciate that. Kicking it with Karen Beyond Sauerkraut is in the house. Thank you for joining. It's good to see you again. Vicky donates crocheted blankets. Vicky makes really neat crocheted things, and I don't think she has her Etsy store up yet. She ends up giving all her stuff away. She really needs an Etsy store. Y'all need to bug her about that. My mom saves shampoos and soaps from hotels and give them to Ronald McDonald House. The families staying there oftentimes don't have any and really appreciate it. Kim, Living with Kim says, I wish I'd been able to log on sooner. I try to do nice for someone every day. Some days it's just a hug. Sometimes it's a lot more, but I do as much as I can in as many times, it probably says ways, somewhere down there, ways as possible. I do like to do things anonymously as much as possible, though. It's nice to believe in miracles. Okay, so hey. That, Kim, thank you for sharing that. I try to do something nice for someone every day. I think that is a realistic goal that each one of us, so there's almost 20 of us in this chat right now. If all 20 of us decided between now and next Wednesday, can we do this? Can you guys commit to being back with me next Wednesday night? And I want you for 7 days, between now and next Wednesday, to find one nice thing to do for someone every day. And then come back and tell us, I want to know how it affected the people that you did something for, if you know. And 2, how did it affect you? Because I believe that so much of what we do when we give of ourselves, like I said earlier, is about us. It's about us acting in obedience. It's about, and it changes us and our outlook on life. So I've got a couple yeses. It's a 7-day commitment, right? We can do anything for a week. Jerry says, stay away from the electric fence. Yeah, I think I can do that. Yeah, okay, so let's try this. Let's try for 1 week. Those of us who are watching now, one something for someone a day. And it can be someone in your family, and it can be someone you don't know, right? So we're not gonna put any limitations on this. This is however you feel led to give over the next week, and then we'll come back and report. What changes did you see in yourself? I think there's something really interesting. I watch a lot of YouTube, obviously, and well, maybe not obviously. Sometimes when I'm like got 3 trains of thought going here. Sometimes I'm watching videos and somebody's like, well, obviously, blah blah blah, and I'm like, wait, it's not obvious to me. You back up. Tell me what you mean. So I'm trying not to say obviously too much. I not only put out YouTube content, I watch a lot of YouTube. And I not only watch homesteading channels, I like to watch TED Talks, and I like to watch a couple other types of YouTube channels. A lot of things to do with thinking. And I was listening to this lady who was talking about, I don't remember the scientific words that she used for it, but how our brain so many things come at us in a day. There's so many things that our senses picked up in people's facial expressions and all the screen time we watch and dogs going by and when we're driving and people talking to us and just there's just so much coming at you all day long. You like this visualization of it. This is all the stuff coming at you, right? That your brain cannot physically take in everything that you're exposing it to. So your brain filters things that it thinks you want to think about or that you want to notice or need to notice. And that oftentimes it does that based on prior experiences you've had. So this could be like, you know, I don't want to get like real deep into it. Something bad happened to you as a kid. It kind of made you think like people are always looking down on you. And so then every time you see somebody like, and they like have a little grumpy look on their face, your automatic thought, your brain filters that to, oh, they're thinking something bad about me, right? But that you can actually retrain that part of your brain. And so if you can take the time to think about, you know, what would it be like if when you saw somebody and they smiled at you? How would that make you feel? How would that make you, what would it look like? What would it smell like? What would it feel like, right? That if you can imagine that in your head, that in your brain, it's the same thing as if you had the actual memory of having that kind of relationship with someone. And that if you take the time to do that for 30 seconds a day, then your brain starts to filter in those kinds of experiences. So then, instead of pointing out the person that's sitting over there with the grumpy expression, you see the person over there who smiles at you. So it's kind of weird, but cool that you can retrain your brain. You can retrain how your brain thinks and processes information. And there's also a lot of scripture about this, about being washed by the word. And God says, think about things that are pure, honest, true. You know, that whole section. So I think there's scriptural basis for it. There's also scientific basis for it. So I want to say the reason I brought this up is what I'm wondering is if we can't set our mind each morning to think, I'm going to do something kind for something today, then one, it's going to put our heart in the place to be ready for God to say, okay, there's that person that needs something kind, right? Because we're going to have it on our mind. And two, it's going to retrain our brain to be kinder people and to see kindness, opportunities to be kind and loving. So that's why I think this is going to be a great experiment for the next week. All righty, let's see. All right. And Kicking It with Karen says, as a teacher, I have to do this every day with many of my students. I also help my students retrain their brain by smiling at them when they have that look on their face. Yep. I worked in a call center for several years, and I worked in a call center that where the deaf people could see me on a screen, and I was interpreting telephone calls, and I noticed a marked difference in the response and the way the deaf person and I interacted if I simply answered the call with a smile. If I said, hello, I'm interpreter number something, and I'm, you know, are you ready to make your phone call? And of course I'd be saying all that in sign language, but if I said it with a smile on my face, then the whole tone of the rest of the interaction we had was different. So it's amazing how much that does. Ashley, facial expressions are everything. I try to always smile, but a weird smile. Does that mean you try to smile weirdly, or you just feel like you have a weird smile? All right, and Kim says, I work in recovery and I'm a yoga teacher. You absolutely can retrain the brain. Let's see. Lots of people are talking about that. Act your way into better thinking. A smile and or a hug can change someone's day. Absolutely true. I know without a doubt that I'll be producing more than I can use when I get on my place. Yeah, Ashley, I figured that's what you meant. It was just funny the way you said it. You're a hugger. I'm not a hugger. I'm not a hugger. Leslie is a hugger. She is. I like Leslie's hugs. I like some hugs. I'm just not naturally a huggy type person. A smile can go a long way. So here's my weird smile, Ashley. Someone told me I look like a murderer. I was super upset. Oh, that's horrible, Noodles. I'm so sorry. And you don't have a picture, so I can't tell you don't look like a murderer, but I'm sure you don't. A hug makes you feel warm inside. There's a whole movie about that, actually, Ashley. Santa Claus 3.
My name's Olaf, and I like warm hugs.
Oh, no, I wasn't thinking that one. I'm thinking of the Santa Claus, the third
Yeah.
Santa Claus. Her hugs are magical.
Yes, she had magical hugs.
Hello, Lion, Roar. All right, well, we have surpassed an hour. All right, so everybody, here's your challenge then. Between now and next week, do one nice thing for someone every day, at least, and report back here next week. So have an absolutely wonderful rest of your week. Thank you so much for spending this hour with me. And I'll let you guys chat it out a little bit while I clean up in here before I shut down the live stream. Bye, everyone. Oh, and you guys, everybody give big thumbs ups in the comments for my moderators. They work so hard, and they do such a good job at keeping all the ugly mess out. Oh, hey, Tina G's in the house. Hello, I didn't see you enter. I'm so glad you're here. All right, I'm going to start cleaning up while they're saying goodbyes.
Right on. Living with Kim just sent you a hug.
I like virtual hugs. They're more comfortable for me than real hugs. All right, let me know when the chat is done and we'll shut it down. Start uploading stuff. Thank you everyone for putting up with my cold and my sniffliness. Hopefully next week it'll all be gone. All right, I think about everybody's out, huh?
Yep.
All right, bye-bye. Oop.
Oh, Grateful Sue Nights wants to know if you saw their spicy food comment.
I did
She
not.
can't handle spicy food. She can't.
Well, I don't know what that had to do with anything, though.
The spicy food comment was about how when her son is sick, they eat a lot of spicy food.
Oh. I did not. I'll go back and read all the comments later. But people are still talking. All right. I can't reach the plugs. Leslie, can you reach them?
They're good nights.
This is my phone. This is how I do my phone so I can read the comments. I have to have it close to me. The iPad's too far away. Or I have to sit like this to read the iPad comments. And then you can see all the blemishes. Yes, Too Well and Homestead. We're just actually just finishing up and closing out the chat. So sorry, but watch it, wait about half an hour and then watch it once the live chat's up. Then you'll be able to catch up with everybody.